Here, Russ Burke from Hofstra is going to talk about the Diamondback Terrapin, one of our prettiest sea turtles. Well, not a sea turtle, sorry. One of our prettiest turtles, but an estuarine species. Thanks, Russ.
This is our...
And now this is your
gotcha.
green go, forward, backwards, and that's your pointer right there. And this will tell you how much time you have left.
That's scary.
As soon as you start, it'll go.
All right. Thanks, Mike. And terrapin enthusiasts are not offended by calling them sea turtles. I think that's, I could say that pretty safely. And they are the prettiest of the sea turtles, so I'll happily go with that. Thanks for inviting me, and I'm happy to talk with you this afternoon. Thanks for sticking around. This is the peak time as the caffeine levels start to drop and before they pick up again, so, you know, we'll do what we can. I'm going to take a few minutes to bring you up to date on the work that's been going on with terrapins in the last year or two. I think it's been that long since we did an update, and I'm not going to go over a lot of terrapin natural history. I did a talk for this group some years ago, and I think it's recorded if you're interested in hearing that, but there's lots of other folks that can address that as well. I'm mostly interested in talking about as I said, the recent things that have been going on with terrapins. And I first wanted to just point out that terrapins are just one of many turtle species and reptile species that live on Long Island and seem to get way more attention than any others. I'm not complaining about that, but I did want to point out that we've got a lot of other reptile species here and a lot of other beautiful turtle species here, which you know, of course, deserve some attention as well. We do have the sea turtles, and there's a poster or two out in the hallway out there about sea turtles. We heard a little bit about box turtles. We heard some about box turtles this morning, and they are certainly very lovely. And a couple of very pretty spotted turtle pictures up there as well. And there's been some recent work on spotted turtles. Mike can talk to you about them as well. So there is other turtle work going on. But as you'll see in just a moment here, terrapins get a very, very large fraction of the attention that goes on with reptiles here on Long Island. These are the sites that I know of where people are doing terrapin research in recent times. And I want you to see and I have extended it a bit. This isn't all really Long Island. There's Staten Island is in there too, and the Meadowlands is in there too. But these are all places where terrapin research or terrapin conservation projects are going on. And there's a few others that are a little bit less, you know, specifically localized, so they're not on there. This is a lot of work on one, you know, of course, wonderful, but, you know, one species of turtle. So, you know, for one thing, we should, you know, respect the fact that, you know, they've gotten a lot of attention from a lot of people. So I'm going to divide the kinds of things that I want to talk about into major kinds of projects. And the first ones are these mark recapture studies. And these are the things that, that probably on a regular basis get most of our attention because they're ongoing projects. So the Meadowlands has been doing a mark recapture project since 2009. This is one of the very few of them that is not based on nesting females coming up on land, but they go out and catch turtles regularly. And they've got a gigantic data set that they've been working on for a long time. And this one has actually lasted long enough that it's outlived one researcher and been passed on to his successor. So that's pretty cool. The second one I have up there it was my project, which I shut down a few years ago, but went on for quite a long time. The folks at JFK Airport started in 2011, and they're ongoing right now. They're completely limited, the turtles that come up on land. And their data set indicate, you know, they have tagged now over 15,000 terrapins have got pit tags on them from their site. The town of Hempstead has been running a site, Mike Farina from the Nature Studies Center since 1999. That's a very respectable length of time for any project. Middle Bay a little more recently, and then the folks at Flax Pond, the Friends of Flax Pond up on the North Shore and the Sound have been doing similar mark recapture for a long time. There's a couple other projects that I know about that were started and run for several years and stopped. So I mean, this is a very impressive data set for any place the size of Long Island. So we also have some just straightforward, more or less one-time census projects. The National Park Service hired folks, Sean Starrett from Monmouth University, to census terrapins at a couple of sites here on Long Island. These were done in 2024 and 2025. The data were just released just recently. So they were limited in the amount, with the amount of time they had, the amount of funding they have, but mostly they documented places where there's lots of terrapin use. So at Fire Island, they focused on some areas where they already knew that terrapins were using pretty heavily, and they found a lot of depredated nests. They found a lot of nesting females and marked those. Up at Sagamore Hill, they found a few nests, not very many. There wasn't very much nesting habitat up there. And they documented lots and lots of overlap between times when people were in nesting areas and turtles were trying to nest. And we're suggesting ways that that the Park Service might manipulate regulations so that there was less overlap, the terrapins would be disturbed less, and more nesting would be undisturbed. They also point out some nice nesting habitat where there weren't terrapins, suggesting that this population was nowhere near at its limit to how much in terms of its use of nesting habitat. And then there's some more straightforward conservation projects. Some of those overlap with the marker capture work. Up in Staten Island, they do quite a bit of nest protection up there. Middle Bay has been doing nest protection as they find nests to find females laying eggs. Flax Pond's been doing that for a bunch of years as well. If you're interested in getting involved with any of these projects, these are places where people who are interested in terrapins can get plugged in. And then earlier today, we heard a little bit about, toward the end of Luke's talk, about the project at the town of Brookhaven's working on with John Turner from CTUC to put some tunnels underneath Harbor Beach Road for nesting terrapins that are crossing back and forth into nesting areas, can avoid getting hit by cars. Nothing there yet, except that's been funded, and they're in the planning stages there. And I'd like to wrap up by talking about research projects, and which are not directly connected to, in the most immediate way with conservation or censusing. And that's some of the work that I've been doing with Matt Sclafani from the Cooperative Extension, and also with Laura Francoeur from JFK. We've been mostly working in Jamaica Bay at the study site I used to work at all the time, and also at JFK itself, and also at Orient Beach State Park. And we've been putting satellite tags on terrapins. We've now got how many now? We've put 30 or 35 on, I guess it is all told, over the years now, and releasing them out in the bay. This has been a dream of mine for a really long time. Until this point, I've been mostly limited to studying what terrapins do when they come up the nest, and not really being able to understand what they do when they're out in the water. And you can look. We have now generated a gigantic amount of data. Actually, this is a little bit old now. We're over 100,000 fixes now among our various turtles. And the tags have performed really, really well. We've got a good number of tags now that have been transmitting over 300 days. So we've got really long-term data through brumation in the winter, through another nesting cycle with some of our turtles. So we'll be mining these data for a really long time. They're lots of fun to look at, but our primary charge was to develop home ranges. And if you're familiar with home range analysis, you might be aware that people have many, many different opinions about how we should do home ranges, and we've got the data now to generate home range estimates in any of the various flavors that you might like. So we do it in a bunch of different ways, kernel methods and MCPs and all those kinds of things. But we're certainly seeing lots of really interesting patterns, and we've got summer patterns and fall patterns and spring patterns and things like that. I want to get on to, we've got some very, very cool patterns watching individuals around. One of my big interests was how much do the terrapins that nest on one side of the bay cross to the other side of the bay, and right away we started seeing turtles moving clear across Jamaica Bay and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So completely contrary to what I would have said to you the moment before I saw this track for the first time, our terrapins are regularly crossing the bay and doing really, really cool things. And I think I've got, here's another one here that was up at Canarsie Pole and then zipped over there to Joko Marsh and then crossed back over again. So these sort of individual patterns are really the exciting things here. And I'm going to stop there. Well, I still have a few moments for questions, and thank you for your attention. As the mic gets passed down the seats here.
There it is. Do you know what the dispersal pattern of the young are when they're born? Like how far they disperse?
Yeah, young terrapins are weird. They are really, really weird. They are unique, I think, among turtles. So that we've done some tracking of young right out of the nest, and we see very high percentage of them spend their first winter on land. They actually come out of the nest and then go further upland and bury themselves in the undergrowth, and then the following spring come back out again and make their way down to the water. And I have racked my brain for a hypothesis to explain any of that. But beyond that, we've not tracked them, but there's plenty of anecdotal data to suggest that they spend their first couple of years either in very shallow water or in the rack line, very, very close to the shoreline, and don't go out into deeper water for at least a couple of years. But that's really extrapolating from a bunch of anecdotes. Nobody's really filled those gaps in.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Technology just isn't there yet.
Russ, on the tracks you had in Jamaica Bay,
Yeah.
Is your resolution enough to know whether they're actually getting out and crossing the highway, or are they swimming around?
The resolution is certainly good enough to show that they're going under the bridge. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They swing toward, if you know the geography, they swing toward Subway Island, then tack north and go around the north end of Ruler's Bar, and they're definitely going underneath the bridge. And they don't go south. The ones we've tracked, and we've tracked quite a few now, when they cross the bay, they're going north of Ruler's Bar. Yeah, it's amazing. I would have totally said that doesn't happen. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, yes, please.
Thank you. So my question is, I know that there's a decline in certain species of sea turtles, like the leatherback sea turtle has declined really a lot, I think by like 90,000 turtles to 10,000 in like 20-year period. Is there a decline in this species of turtle in the Diamondback Terrapins?
Yeah, most of the long-term study sites, like the ones I've showed you, but other ones up and down the entire coast, have showed declines, sometimes very, very dramatic declines. In a lot of cases, we have very good ideas what it is. It's bycatch from crab traps, which takes out the adult females. And then we get very, very poor recruitment because raccoon numbers are so high, they're hitting so many of the nests. On the other hand, the JFK population was practically non-existent in the late, until 2011. And the reason they started up was that the terrapins went from being a completely rare species at JFK to being super, super abundant. So that's a population that went from basically zero to somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 or 20,000 in a few years. So this is a very strange case where a rare species became super common in a short time. But most of the populations up and down the coast are declining either faster or some sort.
In this actual moment, they're declining still?
So right now they're declining, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Declines are continuing, you bet.
Okay, and you think that's mostly from the crab traps like you mentioned?
Yeah, crab traps are a really important problem in a lot of places. I mean, but here in New York, that we're positioned maybe to reduce that. That we maybe see some slowing of that over time. There's other issues as well. They get hit by cars. I mean, obviously that's one of the reasons that the underpass development's underway. They get hit by boats. Raccoons kill even adults when the terrapins come on land. So lots of other issues as well. Thanks. You bet. Mike is pushing me off the stage. And I respect Mike.
One of my